How can you love a city? Can you love the architect's designs, mumbled and jumbled on some unfinished master plan that combines the vagues and vogues of a too young history? A city that questions the new, that would block out the sun, but finds itself admiring the old only moments before the wrecking hammers strike home. A city some other folks have called cold, unfriendly, distant, polite, but politely distant.
Maybe they're just shy.
Toronto is a city that regulates itself with modest intentions.
Which is maybe aiming too high.
A city that somehow made room for the concrete shapes of progress without giving up its lifestyle of quiet neighborhoods under the trees. Sprawled along the lake in the valley of rivers, Toronto was and is a woodland. Maples, oaks, chestnut, poplar, wild apple, birch, sumac, and thousands on thousands of evergreens, spruce, cedars, and pine. A great forest waiting for the people to come. Toronto is the product of its people. A million dreams somehow stitched together in crazy quilt design by some shared sense of direction. Never quite drawn in plan, picture, or poetry. Never described in words of common sense, for the sense of the Toronto dream is uncommon.
And uncalled for.
Internationally famous cities are expected to be famous for something. New York has Old Broadway, London, Old Piccadilly Circus. Generations have walked the Champs-Élysées of Old Paris.
And Toronto?
It's still young.
And it's the season of the young. It's the people on the street in blue jeans. Long hair, short hair, all shapes and sizes of youth and peace, looking pretty. Shuffling through the city on Yonge Street, where the people go to look at each other walking by and have a picture took by a guy standing on Yonge Street. Toronto's number one street. Toronto's Fun Street is young. Of the young, the boys and girls go walking. Looks here, smiles. beat of their feet on the street where they meet starts them talking. And everyone goes rocking down Yonge Street, where strangers touch and go, rocking to and fro, swinging into yo, doing do-si-do. Let's go down Yonge Street, Toronto's fun street. Toronto's number one street is Yonge. Let's go down Yonge Street, Toronto's fun street. Toronto's number one street is Yonge.
Toronto, as we know it, was settled by the folks who ruled the seven seas.
Frolicked with mad dogs in the noonday sun.
But why here at all? Who chose this place in the first place? About where Bloor Street crosses the Humber, there was an Indian village called Tayayagong. A tribe of Senecas lived there. Later, the Mississauga, for this area was the southern end of the long river, lake, and portage route from Lake Ontario to Georgian Bay, Manitoulin, and Manitoba. The French came, admitted Toronto was a failure, built a fort, burned it, and returned to Montreal. Then, in 1787, the British purchased Toronto for £1,700.
Which is the one time the Indians got the best of the deal.
4 years later, Colonel Simcoe was sent to found a government for Upper Canada. After some compromising, Toronto, the meeting place of the waters, was chosen to be the capital. Much has been written of the adventurous Colonel Simcoe, but little of his delightful wife Elizabeth, who kept a historic diary of the happenings in her eventful life.
Dear diary, he speaks in praise of the large harbor and of a fine spot near it covered with large oaks, which he intends to fix upon as the site for the new town. I'm going to send you some beautiful butterflies.
Pardon?
I'm going to send you some beautiful butterflies.
Get the net.
Hey, Lizzie Simcoe, you and your man came to town. Sweet Lizzie Simcoe, found Toronto all burned down. So our first president spent the whole year in a tent, and it's rather evident Lizzie's mind went.
I'm going to send you some beautiful butterflies.
Hey, Lizzie Simcoe, gave up caviar and champagne. Sweet Lizzie Simcoe, built Toronto up again. Serving jam and tea, founded our society. When Toronto's only who's who was used to.
I'm going to send you some beautiful butterflies.
Hey, Lizzie Simcoe, had a picnic at her place. Sweet Lizzie Simcoe, taught the Indians to say grace. A lady pioneer, she brought social charm and cheer to this mighty young frontier, as if to let I hear.
I'm going to send you some beautiful butterflies.
Hey, Lizzie Simcoe, though years have come and gone, sweet Lizzie Simcoe, her dream goes on and on. 'Cause the way this city is, just make me thanks to Liz. And every single year, more butterflies come here. Hey, Lizzie Simcoe,
After only 3 years, the Simcoes left Canada. They had built a town and given it a new name, York, called Little York by some to avoid confusion with New York.
And called Muddy York by others who avoided it altogether.
By 1812, York had grown to more than 100 homes, now on the front lines of war, as Brock, Drummond, and Tecumseh rushed about the province, persuading Jackson, Madison, and Jefferson that Canada should remain Canadian. 700 defenders waited at York, among them a company of Scott Glengarrys, the York Militia, and the ever-loyal Mississauga. On April 6, 1813, a party of 4,000 Americans arrived, and for 11 days the Stars and Stripes fluttered brazenly over a smoky, muddy York. The American force withdrew,
having found the citizens cold, unfriendly, and politely distant, no doubt.
but little muddy York had been discovered, and in 1834 it renamed itself Toronto, the meeting place. People were coming to meet here. United Empire loyalists still fled from the United States. Some came to Toronto. The poor were leaving a war-ravaged Europe. Some came to Toronto. Jobless workers were leaving a depressed England. Some came to Toronto. The Highland Scots fled the British. Some came to Toronto. From everywhere, some came to Toronto. Welcome to Toronto, brother.
This train got no rails to ride on. This train only rolls by night. This train rides the shadows in the darkness of the trees and rests up in the daylight out of sight. This train crawls down through the valleys, rides the hidden paths where none can see. And fate guides the hand of the young railway man driving this train. He's taken some folks up the line to a place where it's free. Driving this train rolling on in silence, follows the Indian trails that wind 500 miles up the way to Manitou, leaving the old ways way behind. This train rides across the water. Freedom is on the other shore. There by God's grace is the old meeting place where this train can lay down its burden to rest and not run anymore. Riding this train.
Welcome to Toronto, brother.
This place had a railway history, for the iron horses laid their steel tracks down. This place had been a station and a junction town for years, on the railway line they called the Underground. Big trains rumble through the city, hear their mournful whistles sound. Their cries are tears for the old engineers who made this town. Stop on the way up the old railway line underground, and the folks who rode this train